Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be talking about a hot topic that pops up every now and then of imposter syndrome. So this is something I've been seeing circulating in Facebook groups again, and I think it's important to talk about. So first of all, I'm going to cover what is imposter syndrome, what imposter syndrome is not, and when it pops up and rears its ugly head, what the heck you should be doing about it. Welcome to The Rebel Show, the podcast for estheticians who want to grow their business, master social media, and perfect their waxing technique. I'm Bree Mesquit, esthetician, business coach, and founder of Rebel Wax and First to Market Wax Pads. I built a 6-figure clientele, a 7-figure brand, and have trained over 15,000 waxers through my in-person and online courses. Are you struggling to book clients or market yourself? You're in the right place. Each week, I bring real business strategies, waxing education, and no BS advice to help you grow. Let's get into it. Okay, so first let's cover what's imposter syndrome. So I looked up like the actual definition of imposter, and it is a person who pretends to be someone else in order to deceive others, typically for personal gain. So that's not necessarily the definition of imposter syndrome. I just always like to look up like the actual factual definitions, and then we can break it down from there. Imposter syndrome is usually it comes when you're doing something new. So this is what I really want to get across to people is like, this is not something. So the question that sparked this whole topic for me in the Facebook group was, does imposter syndrome ever go away? That's what she was asking in an aesthetics Facebook group. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. I've experienced this over and over and over throughout my career. It's a cycle. It is not like a linear thing. You don't just get through it and then it's gone. It is a cycle. So when does imposter syndrome normally pop up? For me personally, it's always popped up when I'm in a growth phase, when I am stepping outside of my comfort zone and doing something new. Now, you're not necessarily an imposter in that, but you are new to it, and it's okay to feel like you are new and you don't have everything figured out, because you don't. So I think the biggest thing to look at is, first of all, this is great. Like, you should be more worried about being in too long of a season of not feeling like an imposter, because that means that you're stagnant and there's zero growth going on. And I know all of us here, if you're listening to this, that you are someone who wants growth, you want to excel in your career, and you want to continue to become the best version of yourself. And it takes stepping outside of our comfort zone. I know I felt like an imposter my first podcast episode, my first few months, I felt like an imposter, but I've gone through this enough times and this cycle enough times to have changed my frame of mind on it and saying, I'm not an imposter. It's just I'm new at it. So like, I don't have it. I'm figuring it out. Now, where I would really feel like an imposter is if I came on and said, I'm the number one podcast episode. I am a podcast just superstar. I'm going to start teaching everyone else how to start their own podcast. And it's like I would very much be an imposter in that, because I haven't yet done the thing and then to go and try to teach on it. So I think in our field, sometimes where people truly feel that like imposter syndrome is when you try to teach too early. So don't try to teach too early. Learn yourself and just know that when this feeling comes up, that it's actually could be a very positive thing. It's a positive benchmarker to know, okay, I'm moving in the right direction. So that's really something big that I want you guys to be able to take in, is that like feeling like an imposter is not a bad. I wish I need to come up with like a different term for this, because as we read the definition of imposter, it's such a negative thing, and it really doesn't need to be. Like I said, it could be a benchmarker of growth. So when you're stepping outside of your comfort zone, that's definitely when it's going to pop up. Also, when we compare ourselves too much, this can be a negative aspect of it. And then you have to really take self-inventory and be like, okay, am I getting this feeling because I'm comparing my chapter 1, my chapter 2 to someone else's chapter 10, 12, 13? If I sat here, and especially with the different coaches and mentors and entrepreneurs that I'm building friendships with now at this point and getting into new rooms with, they have a podcast that they have 1 million subscribers or they have 1 million followers on Instagram. If I sat here and compared and I'm just talking on my podcast right now, like this can pertain to you starting your own solo business and getting in the treatment room on your own at first, or even just graduating school and trying to land your first job. But anyways, if I compared my journey with my podcast to my coach's, who he has 1 million followers on Instagram, his YouTube channel is huge, like it just, then I would feel like an imposter, but that's just not, it's comparing apples to oranges. Like it just doesn't make sense to make that sort of comparison. And again, it's just a growth and learning path. We're all on our own different paths and we're at different points of the path. So I just really want you guys to work on not getting so hard on yourselves. Stop the comparison game, because that's just huge when it comes to imposter syndrome, is the comparison. Now I've kind of changed my mindset on this a little bit, because I really don't like to follow a lot of other people in the industry. Because when I do, then I feel like I do get into that comparison trap, or it can almost stunt my creativity as well, because then I have all their stuff like playing through my head instead of it coming genuinely and authentically from me, especially when I'm going to create content and stuff. But I also think there's a healthy dose of competition and just people to just get you moving and grooving a little bit quicker. We all run faster when someone's chasing us, right? If no one's chasing you, you're not really that motivated to run fast. You can kind of jog, you can kind of walk, you get comfortable. But if you know someone's on your ass, or I don't know, a bear or something's chasing you, you're running, and you're running for your life. So I think there's like a healthy dose of, I don't know, inspiration and motivation that you can get from others in the industry too. But I just want you guys to really be able to check yourself and be like, okay, now I'm falling into the comparison trap and it's not serving me anymore. Quick interruption to the show. I wanted to make sure that you are aware of my free 6-week hard waxing 101 course that I have put out for waxers to gain confidence in the treatment room, no matter where it is in your waxing career that you are at. You will also receive a certificate of completion once you complete the course. So visit us online, lashwaxoc.com, and you will click the training tab. Now back to the show. So I kind of jumped all over the place on this one, but so just to kind of recap. So what it is it's definitely a sign of growth. It's when you're entering into new territory and you're stepping outside of your comfort zone. So this is a good thing. What it isn't is a negative thing, unless you are truly jumping the gun and trying to teach on something that you have not yet done. So this is what my coach, he likes to call the gurus. It's like speaking in theory instead of from experience. So, but it's not a negative thing. Generally, it is not a negative thing. It means growth. So now what do we do once this happens? You want to, first of all, look at who you're surrounding yourself with. Who is your circle? Who is your immediate group of people that you are spending the majority of your time with? Because if they are not growth minded, then not only will they not support you, they potentially could be they might feed into this feeling of being an imposter and be telling you you're an imposter. So I know you guys have all probably experienced that. I know I experienced that when I got fired for the second time from European Wax Center. And I told my family, like, hey, I'm going to go out on my own. I know I can do it. I was bringing in European Wax Center X amount in revenue a month, or at least retaining it, because I could see my numbers on whatever that, I forget what it was called, the software that they had. Anyways, I was like, why? I can do this for myself. And they weren't necessarily telling me I'm an imposter, and it came from a place of wanting to protect me, but they were very much discouraging me from going out on my own and wanting me to go back and ask if I could get my job back for the third time because it was safe. So you just have to be really careful about who you share your new goals and your new ventures with, and make sure that you don't have people surrounding you that are feeding into the imposter feeling, but yet are encouraging you to step outside of your comfort zone, do the hard things, and really just go after it to become a better version of yourself. So when you start feeling this, dive in deep. dive in really deep. So if you're feeling like an imposter, I'm trying to think of like all the times I felt like an imposter. I would say the first time definitely was when I got my job at the day spa. So right out of school, I got hired at a day spa. I was doing facials. We had a lot of celebrity clientele because I was in Corona Del Mar in Orange County. So we had like some of the Real Housewives, like they were like high profile clients. We had the owners of the Ducks actually owned the building we were in. So a lot of the Ducks players, like hockey, all their wives would come in, and like, I probably shouldn't drop names. Okay, never mind. I almost dropped a name. But anyways, these people, like high profile people, would come in, and then I'm like a brand new esthetician. I was freaking at one point telling people to put like coconut oil on their face, and I guess it was a big, well, now I know that's like a no-no. For some people, sure, you can get away with it. But telling these people, like, it was ridiculous. It was when my boss had like her own high-end product line, and I'm telling people to go get freaking coconut oil. I'm like, dude, super embarrassing. But okay, so what do you do? So I felt like an imposter, but then what I did was I dove hard into education and surrounding myself and asking for guidance and mentorship from those who have already achieved what it is that I was looking to achieve. So my boss, Amber, I told her, hey, I'm feeling a little lost. Like, can I shadow you? Like, can I sit in on some of your facials? Can I do the hand massage portion for you? So I could just like be around her and hear how she worked through skin issues with her clients, what questions she would ask them, what questions she would ask about what they're using at home, and like how she would really just like play detective on coming up with what the root cause of the acne or whatever it was that they were dealing with, and then what her recommendations. So just really diving hard into surrounding myself with the right people, asking the right questions, and learning and knowing that I am a student and I'm at the beginning. Now, where I would have been an imposter is if I tried to then go and start teaching other estheticians about how to, solve acne issues for clients or something like that. Wouldn't make sense. I was still super, super new. Also, just taking action before you super feel ready, but being honest with where you're at. So if you guys go back and listen to the episode where I was answering questions from one of you guys, from a subscriber, asking me about how to stand out in aesthetic school and like how you navigate still learning and not being completely confident, but like making your client feel comfortable. And one of the things I was talking about, like, pretty much every question was answered with just be honest and be truthful about where you're at. So I think that's something that's really, really important too, is that we're just honest and truthful about where we're at. You don't need to pretend to be an expert, or like, I hate that term, the whole fake it till you make it. I don't think that serves us well. Like, it really doesn't. We don't want to fake it till we make it. You want to show up and act before you're completely ready. But you don't want to be, I just feel like that term makes it feel very dishonest and like manipulative. And I think that honesty is always the best policy. As cheesy as that sounds, it truly is. And it's how I built such a loyal, long lasting clientele when I was in Orange County. I had a lot of ladies come to me that were one of my first brow clients at European Wax Center when I was completely terrified. I did not give a great brow service at all. But what I did was I was super honest. I was like, hey, I am still perfecting my technique and gaining confidence with hard wax. Like, hard wax is new to me. So I would kind of a little bit manipulate it because I made it sound like maybe I had experience with something else and hard wax is new to me. I left that open-ended for them to fill in the blanks. I wasn't lying, but I wasn't just straight like I've never waxed before and like freak them out, because I think you also want to make them feel comfortable. Like, we don't want people just sitting there thinking they're going to go home with a missing brow. But then I would let them know that and then say, so for today's service, like, I'm going to be really conservative on this. I'm just going to kind of clean up, and then I'll do a little bit more of the shaping with tweezers, but I'd rather you go home with more hair left behind than go home with a missing brow. So I would just like straight up with it. And then I'm like, if you would like, in the future, like, while I'm still like mastering this and getting it down, I would highly recommend like go see Katie, and she's a master at brows. And just being super honest, guess what? A lot of them, once they saw their brows, are like, okay, this looks fine. You're being like way too hard on yourself. And they just loved the honesty, and they were so bought into me that they stayed with me for the rest of my time at European Wax Center, and they sought me out once I went on my own. Now, we all know at European Wax Center, you can't be like poaching clients or telling them where you're at. So I just made myself findable by being active on social media, Facebook groups, all of that. And a lot of them, they seeked me out because I had gained that like, no, trust factor, right? So that's what our brand and marketing and everything is about, is building the like, no, trust factor. So I built that with them, and then they reaped the benefits because then I became really great at brows. But also at the beginning, I was not trying to teach anyone else how to do brows. And I was, again, just super honest with where I was at. So, all right, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on imposter syndrome. I hear about this all the time, and I think it just has such a negative attachment to it, and it really doesn't need to. I watch myself and I'm like, am I in a season for way too long of just like feeling super confident in everything I'm doing, which is great, but it's like, okay, it's time to grow. It's time to grow again. So I'm growing myself right now by networking with entrepreneurs that are way further ahead than I am, getting in new rooms, doing speaking engagements. Want to talk about feeling like an imposter? That's how I'm feeling like an imposter right now. I had my first, I guess it would be called a keynote. Now, being on this side of it, it's so funny because I had maybe 9 people in the audience, and then the second one, 5. But I love that. It's so cool now too, to come from a place of, you guys need to look back on past wins too, and know that season was really hard. And in that moment, I felt like this was it. This is the end of the world. And you got through it. And now you look back, and those problems you used to have that you've solved, now are laughable. And you're like, oh my God, that was not even a big problem. Think back to, if you're at the beginning of your career, think back to when you're in high school or middle school. Some of the drama you had then seemed completely the end of the world. And now as an adult, you're looking back and you can laugh at it. And you're like, okay, that was really silly. Well, the same thing. We're going to have that multiple times throughout our life. So I like to look back as well. So that's another kind of action step you guys can take. But anyways, I love having that mindset, because now when I went to Miami and I didn't have a sold out crowd, I'm not sitting there and be like, oh my God, it's because of me. I'm terrible. I'm an imposter. I have nothing good to share. I'm like, this is so cool. And this is the origin story now of my speaking aspect of my career, because I feel pulled and called to this, but I'm new. So I have a lot of learning to do. I have a lot of practice to get under my belt. And it just felt really good to have that moment of ooh, let's get this picture of this empty room, because one day when I'm speaking in front of, I don't know, whatever, 500 people, who knows? I have no idea what's to come. But we can look back on that. So I want you guys to have that too. Really be in the moment and look back on past wins. If you're sitting in your brand new treatment room that you just started renting and you're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, I have no clients. This is crazy. What did I do? Did I make the right decision? I need you guys to go start educating yourself, study, make this your just eat, breathe, sleep this stuff. You guys learn how to market yourself, learn how to advertise. Get yourself around growth-minded people. Get yourself around those who have built the clientele. Get in their mentorship and coaching programs. Get in their group coaching. Get in their communities. Surround yourself with these people. Listen to podcasts like this. There's a lot of other great podcasts within our industry you guys can be listening to, and other YouTube channels. Just fully dive in, and then have the mindset of, this is my origin story, and this is actually really cool. I'm going to remember this, because once I have that fully booked clientele, I can look back. First of all, I'm going to be able to relate with the next esthetician when they're struggling and reach back and be able to help them. So growth, pain, hardship is not always a bad thing. It's a good thing. It means you're growing. So, all right, I'm going to leave you guys with that. If you guys have any questions, comments, anything about imposter syndrome, or there's anything else that you guys want me to touch on, let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys back next week.